Hello and welcome. I'm Deirdre Flynn, NAFEM's Executive Vice President, and we're delighted to have you join us for our 2021 awards presentation of NAFEM's two highest honors, the Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence and the William W. Carpenter Award. It's my pleasure to introduce NAFEM President Rob Connolly, Chairman and CEO of Henny Penny Corporation, who will recognize this year's honorees.
Thank you, and hello everyone. It's great to be speaking with you today as we get to honor two industry icons for their contributions to NAFEM and the industry at large. You know, 2020 and 2021 has been the craziest of times for all of us. And at NAFEM, it's been crazy too. And it's created a lot of firsts for us, which is usually reserved for new organizations, not organizations that have been around 73 years. So 2021 marks the first time we're presenting the Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence to a deserving NAFEM leader. And it's exciting to continue honoring Louise with this award and a new recipient. It's also the first time this award is not being presented to all of you in person. We're having to do this in this way. But as the saying goes, the show must go on. Or maybe that's not a good phrase for this year. Well, like this pandemic has taught us, we're gonna figure it out and go forward. And so today, I'm joined at the NAFEM headquarters by our recipients, and we're excited to have laud their accomplishments, their tenacity, and their commitment to the industry and leadership. Let's begin with our Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence honoree. We announced in February that what has been known as the President's Award was renamed the Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence after NAFEM's longtime and continuing volunteer, member of the Board of Directors, officer, and first female president of the association. Louise was honored at the annual meeting, and she'll join me today in presenting the first Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence to our recipient. The award criteria are the same. It recognizes a longtime NAFEM volunteer for their tireless work on behalf of the association. They cannot be a member of the board or an officer at the time they are considered for this award. As many of you know, volunteering in NAFEM land is a lifetime commitment. We are graced with a volunteer community that is willing to give their time and talents, no matter what the opportunity. Whether it's brain time for strategic planning or rolling up their sleeves following through with program implementation. Let me tell you a little bit about this year's recipient. Our honoree has been actively involved in NAFEM for over 40 years. He has chaired committees, he's managed working groups, he's led ad hoc task force, he's served on the board of directors, he's served on our trade show planning committee, he's managed the association's finances as treasurer, and was NAFEM president in 2012 and 13. He pushed the association with the industry to embrace change, technology, new ways of doing things, and continued to build the NAFEM show in the best experience and return on investment for all the stakeholders. And he did it with a no-nonsense, well, maybe a little nonsense, cut-to-the-chase approach that drove those who he worked with to engage with the same intensity and sense of purpose that he had. The results: an aggressive advocacy program, expansion of program offerings and communications, a bonding of channel partners to collaborate and communicate more effectively to better serve the ultimate customer, the end user of our products. He opened doors and traveled the globe representing our interests to the food service community at large. He made us stronger, better, more relevant as we continued to navigate an ever-changing industry. He always answers the call as our advisor, counselor, and mentor. He's a guy you want to be around. He knows so much about so much. He always adds great insights to any conversation. And no matter how intense or challenging a situation is, it is more effective and more enjoyable with him around the table. There are many historic moments in his NAFM career, but there is one legacy moment that we love to remind the NAFM community about, and that is our recipient, Tom Campion, Executive Chairman of Franke Food Service, followed in the footsteps of his father, R.R. Dick Campion. And 30 years after his father served as NAFM president, Tom stepped in the NAFM presidency. Louise and Tom, if you'd join me now. It's my pleasure to award to you the Louise O'Sullivan Award of Excellence. Please go. You know, this is so cool, Tom. I'm so happy for you and excited for you. And what are you thinking?
I'm thinking a lot. So I wouldn't be here today getting this recognition if it wasn't for Eric Belter's grandfather, Fred. He was the guy who took a chance on a gangly 22-year-old kid from the south side of Milwaukee, my dad, Dick Campion. It was 1953 in Milwaukee, and meals out were in supper clubs, taverns, one on every corner, lunch counters and drug stores, hamburger and frozen custard stands. Of all the lines on the Belter card, the one that Dick locked in on was the Bastian Blessing Company, an iconic manufacturer of soda fountains, ice cream freezers, and dipping wells. It didn't take him long to be one of the top-selling dealers of the line. Acknowledging that fact, B&B hired him away in 1962 to the start of a long food service equipment career. The evolution of food service from lunch counters and cafeterias in the 60s also evolved a new breed of fabricators, dealer fabricators like Progressive in Philadelphia and Stainless in Detroit and Wasserstrom in Columbus and Illinois Range in Chicago and Geno's in Philly and Wendy's in Columbus and Burger King in Miami and of course McDonald's in Chicago. The rest is a part of our history. In 1968, B&B received an order for 150 restaurants from McDonald's to ship over 12 months. That order set the stage for my dad, our family, his organization, and through many twists and turns, defined his legacy and set mine in motion when I finally agreed to work with him in 1982. He was the NAFM president that following year, and my first show in Dallas, working the Bastian booth and meeting a lot of people for the first time who will become friends for a long time. These final words about my dad. He died in 2015, 6 months after my mom. He was 85 years old, and nearly half of those years, he was a force in this industry. He was a big, garrulous man, an imposing figure who was loud, opinionated, funny, scary, who was not afraid to influence without proper authority. By today's standards, totally incorrect, politically, socially, most of the time. But he loved to sell and teach others to sell and make those he sold happy they bought. This little history lesson was necessary to set the stage today. Working for Dick Campion was no picnic, but what he stood for and what I learned that a customer is everything shaped how I worked over the last 40 years, and like him, always a grinder.
So Tom, that history is so rich with your family and actually how it intertwines with the industry. So tell me a little bit about your early career.
Yeah, so my first 10 years, I was 82, 92, I was the classic road warrior, driving, working with franchisees and selling equipment. and learning the ropes from experiences and advice from a few friends. Dave Eck, future NAFM president, was always good for advice that I could use, and after a brief stop at Stainless and at the urging of the Pieper family in Switzerland, Dick and I joined Frankie in '86 and back to work with McDonald's.
So tell me a little bit more about how, your early and ongoing NAFM work.
In 1992, I started my first NAFM committee work. Dick had retired from Frankie, and it signaled my time to start working with Hans Ott, a future board member, a relationship that will run for decades. From '93 to 2003, as a dealer fabricator to our core customers, I worked with NAFM members as supply chain partners and as a manufacturer, collaborating on developing new equipment for our mutual customers. So, adding to that, serving on various NAFM committees, yet another dimension in developing lasting industry relationships. My first committee was chaired by John Knackley with Intermetro, a key supplier, and same can be said about Jeff Rodenbaugh with Specialty. And their brands, and both those guys went on to become NAFM presidents. NAFM shows were always a great place to network across the industry, as were the annual meetings and workshops where I served on several committees. The '99 Kauai, Hawaii annual meeting, it's when I first worked with Peter Nordell. And Peter Nordell will remind you right now that I still owe him dinner. In the 2000 Key West annual meeting, I was the co-chair. And the 2001 Rancho Mirage annual meeting, it's where my son Tom and his friend Charlie, they were both seniors in high school, they ran workshops demoing the technology to boomers. This was before iPods and iPhones. They were demoing handspring visors and Palm 5s. They were a big hit. Dr. Campion is now the associate professor and Chief Research Information Officer at the Weill Cornell Medical School in New York City. And Charlie is a serial technology entrepreneur in fintech, biotech, and all-around crypto maven in Denver. We had the right guys talking at that meeting. 04 to 14, the next 10 years, I really ramped up my NAFM participation. Steve Cobb was president, and I joined the NAFM board for the first time. Carol Wallace was next in line. John McDonough had to step back. I was asked to step into the rotation following new president Paul Angrick and then Steve Follett. So in 2012, Steve passed the gavel to me, and the things we were working on then was this Culinary Institute partnership with CIA, Brad Barnes, another 3-year contract. NAFM Showplace was born and buried during my time. Very proud of that. Michael Whiteley started the YEF, the Young Entrepreneurs, and we had the board members seed that committee with YEFers. And the Allied Leadership Summit, we brought in healthcare, colleges, universities, schools, hospitality, corrections. We had them all in for a really great sit-down meeting. It was great sharing. And this is when we first funded the advocacy program. In 2013, that takes off. And having a friend in Washington, Charlie really dug in and, jumping on energy and environment and regulations and taxes and, of course, supply chain, which is very important now. That was also the year of the Orlando show, my show, where the all industry celebration was casual, and we had a buffet with a buffet. So we had Jimmy Buffett and we had a buffet, and it was a lot of fun. Special NAFM board shout-outs. We have Michael, Let's Have Fun Whiteley. Dave, Let's Talk Baseball Wasserman. Joe, smartest guy in the room, Carlson. Rob, the future pandemic president. Rich, Let's Talk Like a Pirate, Arg. Greg, nicest guy I know, Fisher. Steve, I have one more question, Follett. And last, the recently retired Mississippi icon, Terry, the hardest working woman in business, Brewer. During my term, Deidre and I hit the allied meetings, FIDA, MOFSI, CEFESA, FCSI, the shows in Singapore and Brazil and Dubai, Mexico, Italy, and you didn't get to do any of these things. The leadership cycle takes 8 years, working your way in, working your way through, become a past president, and then you are kicked to the curb. You will find this out. Most of what makes this possible is Deirdre, lives and breathes NAFM. with an encyclopedic grasp on our membership and its allied partners, in the late 90s, NAFM presidents Keith Jaffe and Jeff Rodenbaugh launched a move away from Smith-Buckland to the self-operating organization it is today. Deirdre and her team have forged a well-oiled machine that serves the industry well and us manufacturers specifically. Every board member and NAFM officer knows that D makes things B. The rest of what made it all possible is Susie, who has endured all my nonsense for nearly 45 years. My kids like to point out that was possibly due to the fact that I was only home for 25. Susie managed to raise our kids right, hold down the fort, while I was out there for Frankie and NAFM. She has powered through her fair share of industry meetings, outings, and other activities, always with a smile on her face and a go with the flow nature. So I am really honored to receive the Louise O. Sullivan Award of Excellence, the first of its kind, named after one-of-a-kind icon in our industry. Thank you very much.
You know, that is so great, Tom. You know, you can feel the passion and energy. This is not just a job for you and what you've meant to the entire industry. And so happy to be here with you today.
Yeah,
And congratulations again.
Thanks.
Now on to our presentation of the William W. Carpenter Award. The William W. Carpenter Award was established and given to a food service industry professional who has continually contributed to NAFM's success and to the enrichment of the food service industry at large. The NAFM leaders developing the award criteria unanimously agreed that the recipient must be engaged in the industry for at least 20 years, make continuous and outstanding contributions to NAFM, and be recognized as a successful business leader, achieve personal recognition from his peers, and could no longer be a director or officer at NAFM at the time the award is voted on for presentation. The list of past recipients is steeped in NAFM history and accomplishment and includes the talented Jim Rafferty, Ira Kaplan, Maxine Couture, John Chirnak, Bernie Stever, Louise O'Sullivan, Tom Casson, Jeff Rodenbaugh, John Knackley, Steve Cobb, Keith Jaffe, Paul Angret, and Larry Moon. Today, we add another name to that list. NAFM has had the luxury throughout the years to attract talent from our member companies into leadership positions within the organization. And yes, this recipient contributed greatly, making an impact in so many areas. At the committee level, with market research and government relations, and the NAFM Show Planning Group. He chaired the show and served on the board of directors, and then serving as president from 2010 and 11. He was instrumental in developing NAFM's continuing support of community college hospitality programs. He traveled the globe representing NAFM's interests. In addition to running and growing his business and NAFM's business, our recipient was widely recognized by the food service community at large, channel partner and end user organizations alike, for building consensus. And he was instrumental in advancing and supporting industry causes, communication, and education. He served on multiple board of directors and industry advisory committees, again, representing NAFM's point of view. It's that amazing spirit of giving back that helped to position NAFM as a strong and collaborating industry partner across our stakeholder and our industry community. Steve Follett and the company he built, Follett Corporation, isn't his only legacy. He was the fourth NAFM father-son president, serving 30 years after his dad, Don Follett. Today, Steve's commitment to NAFM continues as he continues to provide leadership with counsel and perspective, and works with our Young Executive Forum to expand their leadership skills and continue to build great companies for our industry. And like everything he does it with grace, skill, kindness, and inclusion. He is always the voice of reason, who brings out the best of all he's around. He is the definition of a gentleman. Please join me in congratulating our 2021 William W. Carpenter Award winner, Stephen R. Follett, CFSP. So Steve, this is so exciting. I'm so excited for you, and you're so well deserving, and look at what a very cool award. So what are you feeling?
Well, I think most of all, first of all, I want to say thanks, Rob, for the award. Thank you to Deirdre. Thank you to the entire board. Really honored to receive this Carpenter Award, as NAFM has meant so much to me in my personal and professional career. I also look at the list of past recipients, which you read off earlier. I'm just humbled to be a part of that group, and, along with Louise O'Sullivan, who's here today and was recognized as well. She's meant so much to our industry, so much to me as a friend. I'd say that this is quite a bit different than receiving the award at the NAFM annual meeting in Orlando. But I'd also say that there are a number of constants that make this venue as meaningful as ever. One is, it's incredibly special to me to receive this award from you, Rob. Through all of our years of working together, my wife Jeannie and I have become really, really close friends with you and Jane. And it's a friendship that we greatly value. And I can say the same thing about Tom Campion, who also got recognized today, and who we've become very close personal friends with Susie and Tom Campion over many, many years. Amazing to me that our dads, Dick Campion and Don Follett, were great friends through working at NAFM, and then also well beyond their retirement in the industry. So all those things make this special. And the last thing, the constant that makes this the most very meaningful venue, is Deirdre. You know, to have Deirdre here, who's an incredible leader, has been an inspiration to me, a guidance to me throughout my career and my tenure as NAFM president, and has been the guiding light of NAFM for so many years. So thank you to her as well.
You know, and I think that just speaks to the power of just the relationships, and how relationships have been so powerful in bringing us all together and bringing us together with NAFM. So tell me how you got involved in the industry.
Okay, I'll go into a little bit of my background, because that helps explain how I got into this crazy industry, but and also how I got involved with NAFM. But my dad always maintained a philosophy of not running our business like a family business. I never worked there growing up, and my brother and sister and I were encouraged to go get our own professional careers. So after college, I spent 9 years, with a number of years with 2 different large corporations, and then 2 years getting my graduate degree. And when my father was trying to figure out his own transition plan, we mutually decided I would join the business after being with IBM for 5 years. And that was April of 1987.
Wow, so what was that like? What was like when you went in there?
Well, I left a corporate behemoth to join this tiny manufacturing company in an industry that I didn't know a whole lot about. I knew through my family discussions a bit about the company, and also a bit about NAFM, as my dad was very involved in NAFM and president in the early 1980s. There were 1-year terms back then, and he always told me that that was good and bad. The bad was it was hard to accomplish anything in a year. The good was you really couldn't screw things up badly in a year. So he really appreciated that opportunity to lead it.
Those were the days when you could do it for 1 year.
Right, exactly. So I want to thank my dad for showing me a path, for showing me his personal and professional mentorship for my whole life, allowing me the space and independence to run Follett Corporation for 32 years, and for his guidance as he shared the incredible benefits to becoming involved with NAFM. I was also influenced by the way he lived out his values, and he lived it out with his own entrepreneurial spirit, with a lot of professionalism, with faith, and with a good sense of humor. And so at 92, we're still able to share good laughs and good stories about this crazy industry that we were in. So
That's great.
So as small as Follett Corporation was when I joined, and we had lots of discussions about cash flow and survival, I always felt that it projected bigger and it seemed bigger. By far the thing I appreciated the most was this, and it was really the foundational fuel for our future growth, was its culture. It was a culture of serving customers and serving employees who just loved to serve customers and satisfy customer needs. We had a lot of teamwork and we had a lot of work on continuous improvement. And I mention this about the culture because I honestly felt that and saw that immediately as I started to get involved in NAFM. NAFM certainly had that culture.
So what an exciting time and a feeling of accomplishment of what you did, and that the working together. So what led you to kind of get more involved with NAFM?
Well, as I started out in our industry, although our company had a strong presence in NAFM, I got involved with some of the industry associations like SFM, which was an association of business and industry food service operators who were users of our product, and FCSI, who were specifiers of our product. I learned a lot in the industry through those two associations, and I was able to serve on 2 boards there, which gave me a lot of experience. And although my participation in NAFM at the time, starting out, I did get involved with the educational committee very early on, and that's how I met Deirdre. And Deirdre, we're still around kicking somewhere today after all these years. And so early participation was low, but that changed fairly quickly.
So what made it change? What made you get more deeply involved?
Well, through my FCSI experience, I clearly saw a very critical connection with NAFM. There were issues that were exposed that, when addressed, could greatly impact and benefit NAFM members, and relationships with CEFESA, MOFSI, FIDA, and other NAFM channel constituents were just discussed regularly. At the heart of all these relationships was NAFM. That was the center of everything that it came back to, and I realized that a deeper involvement in NAFM could help create opportunities to strengthen these channel partnerships and greatly benefit the end user, who is NAFM's officially declared customer. Every single NAFM event that I went to, or every committee that I served on, I saw that NAFM was geared towards adding value to NAFM members, which would then add value to our industry. And it was that strong culture that I so enjoyed at Follett that was completely ingrained at NAFM. This serving culture was experienced and exhibited by the NAFM board, the NAFM constituents, and NAFM staff. So it really made an impact on me.
Yeah. So, and how lucky we were that you got that involved and carried it from there.
Yeah. So after a couple of years, John Knackley encouraged me to take the CFSP exam and become board eligible and consider maybe getting on the board. So I saw the size of the CFSP book, and I knew that my experience was mostly limited to ICE. I realized that would be quite a challenge, and it was. I actually failed the first time I took the test, and so
Well done.
Well done, yeah. So I went back and I got the book out and studied some more, and I did pass, and eventually I was elected to the board of NAFM. You'll appreciate this because there was some relevance with where you are right now, but my first experience in the NAFM board was in Dayton, where NAFM, the board was meeting with Steve Cobb as the president of NAFM and CEO of Henny Penny. And I know it was 17 years ago because at that time the cicadas were out in full force. And I'm sorry to say this about your hometown, but the next time I went to NAFM was 17 years later when you hosted a NAFM board dinner last June, and the cicadas were all over the place. That's their 17-year cycle.
We actually have them every year. No. Yeah, that was an amazing coincidence.
But anyway, so the first NAFM meeting, this first series of meetings was all around looking at doing a complete relook at the NAFM strategic plan. And what I found throughout all these discussions were that, once again, the strong culture of serving NAFM's member in our industry was clearly and strongly evident. And culture was king in everything we talked about. So from the very first meeting, these first meetings in Dayton, all the way through my term as the past president of NAFM, I've been so impressed with Deirdre's leadership and her whole staff and the passion they have around serving NAFM members and serving our industry. We are richly blessed with a long tenured staff, and you know that.
Yeah, we are.
A big thank you to Charlie, Marianne, Alice, and Celeste, who were there during my term on the board and as president and after, and also the rest of the NAFM staff that's still here. And a big shout out to Buffy Levy and the Smith Buckland crew who have managed our world-class trade show for many, many years. Buffy's just an incredible person, does a great job managing the show, and I'm proud to call her a friend, and it's been a joy working with her. And lastly, I continue to be impressed with the NAFM board, the commitment and professionalism each one of them brings to the association. And I have to say, Rob, you have had the most difficult and unique experience of any NAFM president.
It's, I actually, it's been so strange, and there's so many things where people talk about missing things or whatever, but I feel really fortunate in that I've connected with so many people in just different ways. But
well, with this COVID environment we've been dealing with for over 18 months, which is most of your tenure as president, you've actually led this whole association with a lot of optimism, persistence, and just a lot of professionalism in going forward. So thank you for all you've done in these tough times. You've done a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you, but this is about you. And we really appreciate all that you've done and so deserving. And
Thank you.
so, yeah.
I do have a couple more things that I wanted to just bring up, and that one is I really appreciated the trust put in me when I became president of NAFM. And because when I started my term as the president, we were just starting our relationship and significant investment with the CIA. And the idea was to make this investment to raise the visibility of food service equipment in our industry with the faculty, with the students in the industry, and also with NAFM as a whole. And that initiative continues today, so I'm happy to say that has been successful.
It was very forward-thinking, very different in how that has, and like you said, it's endured and been really valuable to, I think, our members.
Yeah. On the flip side, we were also starting our investment with this online trade show, and we were trying to leverage the tremendous success we had with this 3-day face-to-face trade show into an online all-year experience. And it was a good idea. There was a lot of work put into it. It just didn't work at the time. But I have to say that it's that spirit of continuous improvement with initiatives prioritized based on member feedback that's what keeps NAFM current and relevant in serving our industry. And that's what I appreciate about NAFM and how they operate. It was an honor representing NAFM all over the country and actually all over the world, traveling with Deirdre to major trade shows in Singapore, Milan, Dubai, Mexico, and it was just a real pleasure to be able to do that and represent such a wonderful organization. Even when Deirdre's time and energy shifted to focus on Tom Campion as my successor, and actually I have to tell you, I felt cheated on.
Yes.
I still recognize that NAFM was deeply ingrained in my heart, and I really love helping any way that I can. And I've especially enjoyed helping to facilitate some of the NAFM Young Executive Forums, as these are the future of our industry. And frankly, I would encourage NAFM to continue its focus on this group as we work to develop young talent and leadership, not only in our industry, but in our association. So all in all, I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had to lead NAFM and to be associated with such a wonderful organization, so thank you. 2 other shout outs that I want to make.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Sorry.
one is I just was so fortunate to have a talented and committed team at Follett. They worked really hard to strengthen our culture and execute our own growth initiatives while having fun in the process, and we did have a lot of fun. And I especially appreciate and thank them for all the dedication and hard work when I was the NAFM president, because they really picked up the slack, and maybe there wasn't much slack, but they did a great job, and I appreciated the team that we had. And then lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank my wife Jeannie and our 2 kids, Allison and Melissa, for putting up with my travel, for supporting my crazy schedule completely, or maybe almost completely, and allowing me to weave NAFM into a work-life balance that has been such a priority to me and our family. So I'm blessed to have just a wonderful family, and I just thank them so much, and love them so much. So again, thank you so much for this amazing award, and I'm honored to receive it.